When one note is off, it eventually destroys the whole symphony, David.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello from an ice-cold South Africa, and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. The first place to start the search for Jay, and arguably the best place to start, is with the last ping. But what if the last ping is throwing off the whole search? And that seems to be the premise of a new theory. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying this analysis, enjoying this content, and you want to be a bit closer to the True Crime Rocket Science community, feel free to join Patreon. That's patreon.com/TCRS. I'm also uploading chapters of audiobooks that are narrated by me at the moment on the John Benet Ramsey case, up to chapter 13 already on that particular book. There are a total of about 22 books, audiobooks on Patreon. So head out there if you're into things like that, audiobooks and the like. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So it is important to get this right, because as we saw in the Madeleine McCann case, if your first assumption is wrong, everything that follows is wrong.
When one note is off, it eventually destroys the whole symphony, David.
Now, I wanted to make a reference to a reporter on a particular channel that had called the Madeleine McCann case a kidnapping. And it seems like that comment has been edited out. Otherwise, maybe I just can't find it. So if you know what I'm talking about, where a reporter talking about the Jay SLATER case refers to Madeleine McCann as a kidnapping, please do send me the link. I did hear it. I just can't find it anymore. I do think it's been scrubbed. Of course, there's absolutely no evidence of a kidnapping. It was said that the shutters were jemmied, and of course there was no evidence even of fingerprints on those shutters. And so no wonder the whole Madeleine McCann case is the basket case that it is today. One person after another basically compounding the original error. People basing what they think on what somebody else said and just repeating it without thinking critically. And so in this case, we don't want to make the same error. Now, according to an article in the Mirror, I'll put a link to that in the description, quote, "A new theory has emerged about Jay SLATER's whereabouts and could explain the GPS location of his phone. His phone last pinged somewhere in the Parque Rural de Teno nature reserve, where Spanish police focused their search initially."
Talk a bit, but in terms of the location of that phone, am I right in thinking it's incredibly specific where the ping went from?
Yeah, so they're saying that it was in this area of Masca, it's in a Masca Gorge, so down a mountainside. But I've been speaking to a British Army reservist who went up there, spent the weekend up there. He actually found a pair of sunglasses, which he handed in to the police. The police have said that they're not Jay's. But again, he's pointed out that the police were back at the Airbnb the following day after he found the sunglasses, and after he'd been asked to come in and give a subsequent second statement about exactly where he found those sunglasses. I mean, I can only assume, and I think it's probably an educated guess, that maybe they were looking for some sort of DNA or fingerprints in the house to match those glasses, rule them out of the investigation. We're not obviously being kept up to speed. But yeah, he did tell me that he thought where the ping came from was rather surprising because it was really steep to get to and it was covered in undergrowth and cacti. And he said to get there, you'd have to need a machete, or he suggested someone had thrown the phone into that undergrowth.
Now, two things. First of all, because of the protocol of the Spanish police, we don't know whether those glasses were actually a significant find. If they were, well, we wouldn't be told by the Spanish police. So it is possible that they are a significant find. And it is possible, it's quite good reasoning from Nick Pisa, that possibly as a result of the sunglasses that were found, was this idea of, well, we found fingerprints on the glasses, or we found whatever, and then following up. Did the fingerprints on the glasses, do they match anyone at the Airbnb? It's hard to know because it's a gap in our knowledge that one's got to be careful filling it. Now, as you heard, a journalist covering Jay's case in Tenerife, Nick Pisa, is a Daily Mail journalist, senior journalist. He spoke to Spanish police and sleuths on the ground investigating his disappearance. And he's now highlighted this theory that could explain, this is according to the article, why the teen's phone last pinged in a dangerous mountainous area. After having a conversation with an ex-British Army officer, Pisa believes that Jay's phone may have been thrown. Now, if Jay's phone was thrown, you'd imagine someone else threw it, wouldn't you? You wouldn't imagine that he would throw his own phone. Pisa also said the mobile's GPS location could only be possible if the phone was thrown into the location. I'm not sure that's accurate. I don't think you can say with absolute certainty that the only possible way the ping is where it is because it was thrown there. The other possibility as well, it could have been dropped. It could have also, it also could be an inaccurate reading. Now, another thing that I think stands out, which is the phone pinged in a dangerous mountainous area. You read those words and you just ignore them. You're talking about a dangerous mountainous area. So we've got a dangerous situation. Why do we need some kind of dangerous third party? We've already got a dangerous situation. If you want to talk about foul play, well, he was walking over basically a foul playground, treacherous terrain. Does that make sense? That's the foul play in this case. Now, the interview you heard, which is from GB News, I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Pisa told GB News, "We're not obviously being kept up to speed, but the former official did tell me that he thought where the ping came from was rather surprising because it was really steep to get to and it was covered in undergrowth and cacti. Again, the emphasis should be on the steepness of the terrain. And again, perhaps it's surprising where this ping came from because of a distortion of the signal. And I think one way to test that is to be in that area and check the ping of your phone in that area and see how accurate it is. That's something that they can practically do now, in situ. The Mirror article goes on to note, he said to get there you'd have to need a machete, or he suggested someone had thrown the phone into that growth. Nick Pisa revealed that expert climbers are still searching with the backing of Jay's family, despite the Civil Guard's active search ending. The reporter added of one, "I must admit I've seen him up there several times and he seems to be the more serious." So obviously what is going on is the search is continuing. It's just not as official as it was. There are nevertheless searches in the area. Now, although I think Nick Pisa makes some credible comments in this particular interview, I think one must also understand that he's one of the biggest blowhards in the media, repeatedly associating the Christian Bruckner case with the Madeleine McCann case. I don't think, is there any doubt about that he's one of the people pushing that narrative and consistently doing so. Anytime there's news about Christian Bruckner, it's in the media, Madeleine McCann's face is put alongside, and that association is reinforced over and over again. And where's that gotten us? Despite blowing this very hard for more than 2 years, not blowing it, trumpeting it from the rooftops, it's clear that 2 years later there's no connection, no legal case, as much as the British media wish that there were. Wish that there was so that they could turn it into a cash cow. Well, they've done it anyway. Even though there is no legal case, they've done it anyway, haven't they? Now, I don't think the specific location of Jay's last ping, this is my opinion, is as material as the general location. And this is because the last ping doesn't mean that's where Jay is. Let me say that again. The last ping doesn't mean that is where Jay is. It's not like X marks the spot. In fact, it very likely means J isn't there. It's just an indicator. It's just a starting point. And so I think they should instead use this last ping to get a sense of the general direction he seems to be heading in from the last ping, and also from the second last ping and the third last ping. Not treat the last ping as X marks the spot. It's almost like when you're tracking a hurricane, you look at where it's moved already and where it is right now, and that the past is giving you some kind of indication for the future trajectory. Does that make sense? Incidentally, some footage has recently been released showing why it's so difficult and hazardous for dogs to cover this terrain. Just have a look at this. The earth is literally split open into holes, caverns, and sort of volcanic crevices. I mean, underfoot, there are like holes underneath, and it's actually difficult to get dogs to walk over this area. And by the same token, people. And you can imagine if you're walking over this terrain when it's starting to get dark, late afternoon and dark, you could easily fall into one of these holes or crevasses. All right, that's it. I'm not going to take it further than that. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys next time.